Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Thursdays with Mike. And this week we had a prayer gathering. It was done really well on Tuesday morning. Sharon Pryor, yes, Sharon Pryor. She facilitated it and had us gathering into groups of like three, so we're in a little triad of people praying and there was just a picture that came to mind, specifically a scripture. With me, it's either going to be a Greek word, a Hebrew word, or a scene from a movie, or possibly like a story from scripture or a verse or something, sometimes a whole chapter. Anyway, it was actually a story, and it's a story you find in 1 Samuel, chapter, 13 and 14, I think, is where you get the full thing. It's a setting where King Saul actually essentially loses his grip on royalty. He is disowned more or less by Samuel because of a breach of faith. He was supposed to wait for Samuel, but Saul just couldn't because he saw everything just falling apart. His army was literally slipping away as he was facing the plague of the Philistines. They had a severe Philistine pandemic that they were dealing with, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting, and they see the Philistines gathering, and it's kind of like the English gathering against a wee band of unarmed Scotsmen. Israelites were from the highlands of Israel. They lived up in the mountains, basically. Philistines down on the plain, the coastal plain. And so anyway, Saul sees everything falling apart. He tries to rally the people with a religious sacrifice that Samuel was supposed to do. As soon as Saul is done, Samuel shows. That's how life is. Bible's true to life, people. That's just how it goes. Just as soon as he's done, Samuel shows up. Samuel throws a prophetic fit and basically says, "You've lost the kingdom, you've broken faith," and leaves, and Saul is left with an unraveling army and unraveling nerves. And they're all unarmed, and there's like 600 of them left. So whatever they started with, they're down to 600, and they're just literally melting away. And so as you start into chapter 14, it's like this lethargy, this inertia has come upon Saul. It says he was just kind of sitting under a pomegranate tree, not knowing what to do. So he's kind of paralyzed. And meanwhile, his son Jonathan, and Saul and Jonathan are the only two that have weapons, okay? So Jonathan says to his little sidekick, an armor bearer who is unnamed, basically he says, "Hey, let's go start a ruckus. Let's go hike up there." So they end up heading towards this pass where one of the Philistine raiding parties had advanced to, and it's like they had paused and were considering their options. And rather than waiting for them to figure it out, Jonathan says, "Okay, we're going to climb up there now." And when those guys, when they see us, they're either going to say, "Hey, what do you guys think you're doing? Wait for us. We're going to come down and teach you guys a lesson." Or they're going to say, "Hey, why don't you little puny Israelites come up here because we're going to teach you a lesson." If they say, "Come up here," that's our signal. We're going to go up there and we're just going to beat the snot out of them. Otherwise, we stay here. Maybe they run away like brave Sir Robin in the Holy Grail. So that's what happens. They start going up, and sure enough, the Philistines, they call down and say, "Why don't you come up here and we'll teach you a lesson," essentially, which they took as God's signal. Okay, let's go. Because the fact is, Jonathan said, God can save whether by many or by few. And so they climb up there, and Jonathan basically slashes this way and that, knocks the men flat. His armor bearer follows with rocks. Well, basically a big rock, and bashes the brains out of each one that Jonathan has dispatched, and they kill like 20 men. And that sets everything. It's like the proverbial dominoes begin to fall in the Philistine camp. And it's like this panic sets up that there's some major incursion what's happening. It's just two guys. It's just two guys, but they don't know that. And so things begin to take on a life of their own. Panic sets in. And then Saul is disturbed from his reverie of inertia under the tree. I think it was a pomegranate tree or something. Maybe it was a tamarisk tree. Okay, now I just got to know because, yeah, let's see, he was sitting beneath. Okay, I see the names of the cliffs. So Saul's taking these. The pomegranate. There we go. Go with the first one. So anyway, Saul is suddenly, yeah, his reverie of inertia is disturbed, and he's wondering who's left, what's happened, and the rest of the story, he's trying to catch up with events and just muddling them and making them worse as he does so. So the story and where it came up in prayer was very simply that we find ourselves at a time where, gosh, a lot of us just don't know what to do exactly. Particularly in church world, in the Vineyard community, we just don't know exactly what to do. We can't do what we used to do, and the fact is, there's an inertia. We all have pomegranate trees, and we just sit under them, and it looks like we're waiting for something to happen. We don't know what. There'll be a turn of events, or I don't know. We're waiting for something normal to come back, maybe. This inertia and paralysis, and the story just strikes me as there was just the best word is chutzpah. There's just this chutzpah. Chutzpah is like an audacity. It could be either good or bad. It could be somebody who's just really bold in a bad way, insulting and harming. Or it could be somebody who just has the gumption to get up and to do something. Kind of like David with Goliath saying, I'm going to go out and take on that beast out there. And all I need is, I just need the rocks in my pouch. Thank you much. Don't need the armor. Don't need the sword. I think one rock will do, but I'll take 5 just to be, just in case. And a stick. Rocks and a stick. There we go. But yeah, it's that chutzpah, that gumption. Jonathan just goes up and says, nothing's going to happen if we just sit here. So let's go see what we can make happen. And so to me, it's just a challenge. It was a challenge to me personally, and I think it's a challenge to us communally as a faith community, and even on a broader basis, just humans. The challenge is for us not to sit and wait for things to unfold. It's just to see the moment and start a ruckus. I thought of this book by Seth Godin, Poke the Box. I really don't know what the cover art has to do with poking the box. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe some of you can email me and let me know. Okay, so what does that have to do with poking the box? He's obviously engaged. He's not in a reverie of inertia. That's for sure. This guy's on the move. It's a really brief book, really easy to read book. I'm not trying to sell this book. It's just I thought about this is what came to mind because this is the whole theme of the book. He starts off with, I think it is that kind of the full title, Poke the Box. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And his first little comment, this is where it's like the first, it doesn't really come in chapters. It's more just like little sections with titles in bold. But he's got this little like dedication thing on the side. It's not so much a dedication as it is a lead in. The job isn't to catch up to the status quo. The job is to invent the status quo. And then off he goes. This is a manifesto about starting a project, making a ruckus, taking what feels like a risk. Not just, I'm starting to think about it, or we're going to meet on this, or even, I filed a patent application. No, starting. Going beyond the point of no return, leaping, committing, making something happen. Let's see. The buzzer box. Yes, the buzzer box. When my cousin was born, my uncle, who has a PhD from MIT, built a buzzer box. It was a heavy metal contraption with a thick black cord that plugged into the wall. It looked like something from a nuclear power plant, not a kid's toy, but that didn't dissuade him from tossing it into the crib. Yeah, you just got to love engineers. The box had two switches, some lights, and a few other controls on it. Flip one switch and a light goes on. Flip both switches and a buzzer sounds. All terrifying, of course, unless you're a kid. A kid sees the buzzer box and starts poking it. If I do this, that happens. Mathematicians call this a function. Put in one variable, get a result. Call and response. Life is a buzzer box. Poke it. Poke it. Here's what's needed to make something happen. An idea. People to work on it. A place to build or organize it. Raw materials, distribution, money, marketing. Okay, so it's a business book. These are the inputs that economists have long understood. Go to any business school in the country and you can take courses on any of these elements. Go to Wall Street and you'll find an entire industry devoted to just one of them. All of this work is wasted if the least understood but most essential input is missing. If no one says, go, the project languishes. If no one insists, pushes, creates, cajoles, launches, then there's nothing. It's all wasted. Okay, so poke the box. How do computer programmers learn their art? Is there a step-by-step process that guarantees you'll get good? No, all great programmers learn the same way. They poke the box. They code something and then see what the computer does. They change it and see what the computer does. They repeat the process again and again until they figure out how the box works. The box might be a computer, or it might be a market, or it might be a customer, or it might be your boss. Okay, that could be dicey. Poke the boss. Okay, yeah. It's a puzzle. One that can be solved in only one way, by poking. And so the question is, what can you start? Outsized entrepreneurs are lionized daily. We've heard their names again and again, people, too often men, who started a business, started an organization, started a revolution. Good for them. But you don't have to be Howard Schultz to be an initiator. People have come to the erroneous conclusion that if they're not willing to start something separate, world-changing, and risky, they have no business starting anything. Somehow, we fooled ourselves into believing that the project has to have a name, a building, and a stock ticker symbol to matter. In fact, people within organizations are perfectly situated to start something. The third person in the 4-person inbound customer service team can do it. The receptionist can do it. The assistant foreman can do it. The spark I'm talking about is simple to describe but easy to avoid. Is there someone struggling with a tray as she walks across the hospital cafeteria? You can stand up, walk over, and help her. It's not your job, it might not even be appreciated, but you can do it. Is there a better way to answer the phone when angry customers call? You can try it out and then teach it to others. Is there a noisy hinge that bothers everyone in the room? You can bring in some oil and fix it. This is so obvious that it physically hurts me to type it. So, yeah, start something. If it's so obvious, though, why doesn't everyone do it? So, multiple applications for this. But I'm thinking, what has been my purview of thought and passion has been community and seeing people connecting in meaningful ways. And in a time of quarantine and shutdown, which we're past that, but I think we're still some of us still need to self-quarantine. Life situation dictates, self-quarantining is required, and it might be a season where you have to do it, or it just might be that it's just the way it's been for a long time. But goodness, the mall parking lot is full of cars. It's amazing. It can actually be hard to find a parking place. We're getting out to do a lot of us are getting out and are able to get out to do a lot of things. And so when it comes to community and meaningful connection, I think the challenge very simply here is we can be like Saul and just say, I'm waiting for things to start up again. So I'm just going to sit down under my pomegranate tree and I'll watch a service on TV. And again, that's great if that's kind of where you're at and all you can do. But I'm just speaking to the Jonathans and sidekick, and sometimes it's the sidekick that needs to start this. give a good kick in the side. That just sees an opportunity. Hey, why don't we just try this? Let's go up there and let's see what those uncircumcised Philistines call down to us. I love the fact they're not waiting for, oh God, give us a divine visitation and show us what to do. No, we'll let the Philistines basically tell us, because God talks through donkeys. So he can talk through anything, even these uncircumcised Philistines. And if they just randomly tell us go up, we'll go up. Not a whole lot of logic there. I mean, we could look at that and just say, well, it just seems like a lack of logic. No, it's coming from a different era. It's intuition. It's nudge. It's that inner nudge, and it's taking a risk. And it could have been disastrous. In which case, well, story ends differently. But hey, something was attempted. So it's paying attention to the initiative moments and being the starter. Poke the box. We have a box of circumstances right now. Poke it. All right, don't wait for somebody else to step up on the box and invite you in. No, poke it. And so just try it. Be creative and look for ways to get people together on some level, in some way, in what is a safe way for you and for them. But poke it. Okay, and so I'm going to reread this book. Maybe next week I'll have more, or might be something totally different. But anyway, there you go. Poke the box, and feel free. Let me know what the connection is between this picture and poking the box, because that's going to drive me crazy now. I haven't really thought about it before. But anyway, there you go. All right, all you Jonathans and armor bearers, let's see you do it. All right, poke the box, start something, start a ruckus, people.